here with Brittany Delaney, the Executive Director of Black Table Arts Cooperative. Hey, Brittany, thanks for showing up.
Hi. I see your little human there.
I know, I'm not even gonna stop for that. If I stopped every time for that, forget about it. That's, the problems of working from home. It's the beauty and the problems. But anyway, I'm so glad we have the time here to talk with you here today. I would love for you to give us a lowdown of how Black Table Arts started.
So Black Table Arts, the organization itself, before we got a physical building, actually started with the founder, Kino Eval, young person that, had a dream and wanted to get Black people together in spaces. And then in 2020, with the uprising regarding George Floyd, it was actually Issa Rae that helped make a lot of this possible. She shared our organization as a place to donate to during the uprising, and that brought in individual donations close to about $400K.
Wow.
And that allowed us to get a physical location.
Wow.
So we've been able to hold more regular programming now. It's a pay what you can Black Arts Cooperative. So everybody is welcome in the space, and we finally have like a unified location to link up.
That's fantastic. So were you, prior to this, involved in any sort of cooperative? I mean, I guess for me, like, was that always on the sort of like the game plan, or really when when the George Floyd protests happened, and did that really just change everything? And you said, we need a cooperative. Like, I'm really wondering, cooperatives are still rare. And so I'm really wondering what made you choose to go that route.
I think there was definitely, there's definitely disparities. I think the cooperatives that exist aren't exactly accessible to people who look like me. So we had decided that was the route that we wanted to go. Prior to that, all of us, everyone that's involved in this org, belonged to some sort of like youth group. Many of us started through like slam poetry, and we're, sort of practicing our activism through that venue of things. And Black Table Arts also held events in different locations before we had a physical one. So there was like the Because Black Life conference, we had open mics, things like that. And so getting a physical location just allowed us to kind of pull it all in, and then sort of looking at that deficit when it comes to Black cooperatives, we were like, this, I think, is the direction that we want to go. I think when I think about the beginning story and just the young man who even got this going, it's kind of wild to see it all happen now. Like even in the state of Minnesota, ownership, the deficit, it's real. I mean, right now we're even going through the process of trying to own our building or buy a space. Because in the state of Minnesota, there's only one Black org that owns their building, and that's Juxtaposition. And so if you look at the number of Black orgs that are here, that deficit is something serious. So we are trying to look at everyone that came before us and figure out what we can do differently, and also get in partnership with the people that came before us so that they can tell us what we can do differently. So the journey has begun, and now we are looking at a ton of youth programming. And also prior to this, there was workshops inside of the schools, diversity trainings, things like that. So now it's just, we've got the location to do it out of.
Wow, that's great. I thought that was, interesting that somebody that I interviewed last week, also based in Minnesota, but creating a national cooperative, hearing about the fact, I guess, that there are so many cooperatives in Minnesota, or I guess in the Minneapolis area. But she also was talking about there was sort of a dearth of Black cooperatives in the area. And so I guess when you think about how you've put Black Table Arts together and that it is a cooperative, I guess I'm really trying to get to the heart of what it means to you that this organization, how do you operate differently now from when prior to being a cooperative to deciding, okay, we're a cooperative? How does that change your operational, structure, or just the reality of how maybe the employees relate to each other, or, what does this mean?
I will say that being able to be in a building together and work out of one space has definitely shifted the relationships, allowed us to create more depth there. Also, we have some artists that are on staff as well. And that is extremely personal to me, just because coming up as an artist, and being in the education field, I think there's just a reality that you can't make enough money as an artist to be able to support yourself. And I've always been really passionate about paying artists what they are worth, and acknowledging them for the power that they add to the space. Some of the greatest educators that I knew were artists, and were not traditional teachers, and therefore were not honored in the exact same ways. I've, talked a lot about going to funerals of great educators from our lives that we had to help fund through GoFundMe's because there was no, 401k. There was no retirement plan for this sort of thing. And so being able to get a physical space is the first step in being able to create sort of longevity for artists and have them on staff, on payroll, pay them what they're worth, and put them in positions where they're able to grow from this space and keep the space at the exact same time. So we're extremely understanding of our other artist schedules, mindful of that. Nobody has to call in and be like, well, I'm sick, when really they have to go be on stage. Like we keep those schedules in mind ahead of time. And then having a physical space allows us to hold so much more programming, consistent where the kids will be here. Poets in general, but we weren't able to hold that. You don't have to.
Because you broke up. So you said kids, now that we have a space, now that we have a physical space, kids will be able to, and then it broke out.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so now that we have a space, kids will be able to come to the space consistently. So we have like weekly programming that's coming for high school students. We have a monthly writing workshop that is also coming for young people between like 11 and 15, because that's a demographic that kind of gets left behind as well. Having a space allows us to do this consistently and stay in the work. And that's been life-changing.
So when you say cooperative, is it, I guess I'm trying to get a better understanding of who are the owners under the cooperative? Like what makes it a cooperative?
So it's a pay what you can membership starting at $10. So we have, everybody has part in that ownership, and we have, say, like 70, 80 members right now.
Oh, wow.
They have key cards to the building. They can use the space. They can come in, at any time that it's open. We have free Wi-Fi, latte machine, breakout spaces, meeting spaces that they can utilize. So it really is open to anybody that wants to be there and wants to be a part. And the other cooperatives in the state of Minnesota have a lot of rules and also ticket prices that people cannot afford. So we wanted to remove the issue with accessibility. And even if someone came and said, I can't afford to consistently hold up, $10 a month, we would still give them the membership. So.
That's cool. I mean, I was a part of, I personally love workspaces, by the way. Like, I love them. Like even right now that I've become a parent, I'm like, gosh, they need some like kid-friendly, like, like workspaces, because I loved having a workspace.
And I bring my kids.
Oh, so do you?
Yeah.
Girl, I gotta move to Minnesota.
The baby. We love the baby at Black Table Arts.
Wow.
So my kid, my son is 7, my daughter will be 9 in April.
Awesome.
They go in one of the breakout rooms. They've like claimed that as their space. So we want young people to feel comfortable there, because we're trying to create this sort of cycle of handing over the work. It's like, I'm going to train you, and then you train the people underneath you, and, kind of keep that cycle going. So we recognize that the young people will be the gatekeepers and the space holders next. So we definitely want to make sure that they're in the building, they understand the role that comes with that, and that we,
yeah. I feel that makes it more inclusive, because I feel like so many of these things are geared toward like younger or I don't know, like people whose lives are very separate, right? Like I go use the workspace because I'm still sort of following the traditional, you go into the office for work and stuff like that, as if your life doesn't cross over anymore. And so I love hearing how, gosh, like different your setup is and how inclusive it is of families. Yeah. I'm telling you, I wish there was more out there. I know I've really been thinking about this. So it's awesome. And And I was just, I guess one time I was working on this documentary and the woman was talking about her farmer's market and she used the word, coated black. It's not that it's not for everybody, but that it's, like it's got this kind of like special, hey, we're welcoming to everybody, but we also want to know that this is like coming, like coated black. And so I am also like, how do I find these spaces that are, inclusive, but coated black?
Yeah. Oh, no, same situation. We definitely try to keep the focus around us for sure. If you want to be a part of that as an ally or share in that space, then you know that like first things first, we don't do anything that makes this space unsafe for folks that look like us. And we also have 2 apartments upstairs, and that's been like, yeah, we brought them in. And originally we thought, okay, we'll make these co-working spaces. But that wasn't where we were at in the journey. So we decided to keep them as apartments. They're both 2 bedrooms. And we decided to rent them out and remove restrictive requirements that, create accessibility issues, drop the rent down as well. So we take care of the other part of it. So that's been really beautiful. And then
once gorgeous.
Yeah. Once we get through that, we're talking about having like a safe haven in one of those spaces, where we can, we open it up to the community. It's like, hey, somebody's going through something, rather that be, domestic or they have a family or they, need to get away from something that's unsafe, then we would open up that space for them. So we have some big dreams that are coming to pass. We're super excited about. We just got a really great grant as well. The Humanities Center here. It's the largest grant that Black Table Arts has ever received, and it was for $105K, all for our youth cooperative lab. So we have some really incredible youth programming coming out that I'm so excited about. I've been running around like crazy for the past couple of weeks, just like
congratulations.
making sure the partnership is together. And thank you. We're so excited. There's so much coming. And I think sometimes we're all just sort of looking around at each other, like just blown away by the fact that this is happening all together, like
that's awesome.
I certainly, didn't think that we would be able to have space like this. Not when I started as an artist. I think, and maybe it was just my parents in my head, with the idea that you need to get something that's going to pay your bills. And, and art was one of those things I could not get away from.
Wow.
I had to figure out how to make it work for me. So to be able to open up this space and give different opportunities to young artists and for their parents who mean well and really just want their kids to be able to be stable, especially Black children, be able to come into this space and see that there's a career in this. And there's a career right here in the state of Minnesota, and that your kid, could cross 18, develop their own work and become a program associate at Black Table Arts, It just opens up different doors for people.
So is part of the programming, at any point, do you intentionally, I don't want to say, touch upon the history or the importance of the cooperative? Is that something that you are sort of bringing to light for these youngins, these middle schoolers or / high schoolers?
Absolutely. I mean, I think making sure that the kids understand the history is number one on the list when they come in. And then we also have like Black abolitionist study groups. We have, a lot of gathering points for Black people to discuss things like this. And I'd say that one of the first things that comes up is the importance of the cooperative, the history of it, the history of cooperatives in the state of Minnesota, the accessibility issues, the disparities, and why this space is so important and why we need to keep it going. Even if leadership changes over, like I'm new executive director, there was some that is, still the founder and still, is back in school and contracts with us. But like, it's important for us that the kids know what it took to get here today. I'm just a firm believer that if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, for one. But also knowledge is power in this space. And that's really how you win in the game is know exactly what the game is. So they definitely have a different starting point than I did, like there's just so many more opportunities here. And I'm not resentful at all. I think I look back and I'm just like, this was the dream and we got here. And I think that kept us all like going and pushing, is believing that this could be. And now these babies, instead of having to get it out of the mud, get it out of the garden, And that's the point of all of this.
I love it. Yeah, I did this article on Fannie Lou Hamer for Black or sorry, for Women's History Month. And, you know, now having sort of recently been in the cooperative circles, I'd say like the last 5 years, you know, I hear her name and I'm vaguely aware of what she's done. And so it was just really weird to actually like dive in order to write this article. And I was like, wow, man, this is so powerful. How wasn't I learning this stuff in school, like at all?
Right.
And so
It's like the godmother of cooperative,
yeah,
really.
that's exactly how I turned it. I was like, she's the godmother of the modern cooperative movement. That's exactly what I put. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was just blown away by, about how much she had accomplished. And I think that there are so many times when things fail that we don't take, it's hard to walk away with all the knowledge and from like the wins, you know, and it's just like, oh, failure.
Mhm.
And then there's like it ends up being like a vacuum of information, you know. And that's kind of like when I started reading, you know, like in her death, it felt that way, you know. And so, but I was like, you know, she did all of this stuff, and it's there to be emulated, to learn from, or to, you know, to build upon. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that education piece is just so important, that the more that we could talk about it. And you know, I think, I hate the word like normalize, but you know, when you talk about data,
Yeah.
they use the word like normalize. But anyway, so
Mhm.
I'm just going to use the word like normalize, that it just becomes like standard. Like learning about cooperatives is it's not weird, and you don't have to wait till you're in your 30s to hear about it, you know. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like
That's
you
like know, even we discuss the failures. I'm always telling my kids at the front of every workshop that failure adds texture to the lesson. You know, like you learn why it doesn't work, learn why it doesn't work, and that helps in getting to the right space. And so I'm really, really big on that with the kids. Don't be afraid, especially as an artist, especially as an artist. God, there is so much. There's so many no's. You know, no is just like
you cannot,
like a
yeah.
thing.
If you can't take no, you cannot be an
Yeah,
artist. I mean, really, in
yeah,
reality, life, if you want like to go after your dreams, you can't, no cannot crush you. But
yeah,
especially as an artist and hearing people's opinions,
yeah,
you gotta let it bounce off. You're like, oh, you didn't like that? Well,
yeah.
that's what I was able to do.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I have for you. You
Exactly.
know, and I'm always telling them no is not right now. Failure is adding texture to the lesson. Like you don't look at this as something knocking you down. It's just another fact, you know, like in this sort of pool of information, it's just another journey. And I'm always really grateful when I don't get something right. So like I took my art, turned it into education, was an artist in resident and then an arts lit facilitator for high school English, and then became a curriculum consultant for K through 12. And I've been consulting for about 7 districts across the US since COVID happened. And I had 4 in Minnesota prior. And so taking this position meant stepping back from some of that work, but I still keep my connections to the educators, and I'm still helping build curriculum around because I can't let it go. But you know, with the babies, I'm always trying to sort of let them see that whatever it is that you want to be, like it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks about that. Like this journey was handed to you, you know. And my mentor would always say, if your why isn't big enough to make you cry, it's not big enough. And what I'm learning and sort of even getting my vision together around this is that now that I'm here, it was only the beginning, you know. Like this is it's gotten way bigger than anything I thought it would be. And all of those failures along the way just like got me ready for this moment. There is so much that I know. There's so much I bring to the table and knowledge here that we are jumping over, you know, things and avoiding bumps in the road that a lot of people will bump into their first time around. And we are grabbing hold of massive grants and things like that because all of the failures along the way let me know what I needed to do to here today. So I'm really excited, and I try to be really realistic with the kids about what the journey has been, and that the bottom line is that it's been worth it.
Good, good. I like hearing that. How many of these bumps in the road were legally related?
Um, well, I'd say getting the property itself was the easiest part. the reality is that this all happened. Having this physical location was almost a response to the uprising, you know? So a lot of activists came together to make this possible. And a lot of people caught charges during the protest. That was very real for all of us. A lot of us were out on the ground. And so plenty of us had a lot that we had to kind of get through to even be in this space today. And gratefully we had, you know, people that were activists that were leading the way. So I gotta get the door at the same time. We had activists that were leading the way that had put together, you know, funds for lawyers, organizations that came together. ACLU was a part of that, in making sure that activists could, you know, have legal representation during this process. And so that all directly affected the space. It affected the upbringing of it. One moment here. Thank you. They're on the way home. So.
I think when I asked that question, I wasn't even thinking on that level. So that's interesting to hear, because I mean, I guess now that, you know, hearing you talk about it, it makes sense. I guess I'm so used to sort of talking more about from the like creating cooperatives and the legal, you know, let's say.
No, that was the easiest part.
And most people are like, oh gosh, and we had to find a lawyer who can handle this and this and that. And like, you're like, girl, that was nothing.
That was the easy part. You know, honestly, we have incredible mentors here and folks that were ready and down to give information. We had folks within the group that were lawyers. I mean, we've sort of become that generation where we decided to just be everything we needed. So if something comes up along the way, we just, you know, call an old friend from high school, you know, and they come through and they help. That is the easiest part of what happened here. Building something through the uprising was the real challenge. And then the state of Minnesota is still very much the state of Minnesota. We still have sundown towns around here. There was a lot going on in the process of this building coming to be. And a lot in St. Paul and Minneapolis was destroyed in the riots, burned down. Heck, the neighborhood I grew up in, it doesn't look anything like a place I would even recognize at this point. So much of it got burned down throughout the process. So that was all still very real. And the emotional struggles that came with that. You know, many of us lost friends in the process of this. Many of us are connected to the people that have been killed by police here. This is our neighborhood, you know, and St. Paul and Minneapolis are very small. So it's hard not to know the person who, you know, went down in the latest ordeal with the police. So that was real as well. There was a lot of different struggles on the front, but each and every one sort of added into why this had to be. And we keep that in front, even as we teach here, even as we create programming. We are extremely conscious of Minnesota as it really is. Even being in South Minneapolis, what the demographic looks like racially around that space, what Minnesotans who are not melanated do when they see too many melanated people gathering. It means making friends a little bit everywhere, and it means you make some enemies along the way as well. So it's been a process. Even our social media, you know, like our social media is constantly spammed. I cannot tell you how many emails I go through from older white people who are like, you guys are racist. How could you be holding this all Black space? You're keeping racism going. Wow. Reporting our page repeatedly, having to interact with Facebook directly about, you know, the number of complaints that go through, how often our page almost gets shut down. So it's real. I would say that if the joy was not this big, we would probably struggle a little more with how often we're attacked.
Wow. I mean, I guess for me, it is such a stark reminder that when we talk about cooperatives, I think the people who believe in cooperatives, that it's not this like pipe dream where we just keep looking at sort of past and saying, this is why it's a good thing. Look at the past. It's like, yeah, look at the past and then bring it into the present, because presently we need this. We need this to grow. We need this to have that support system that helps us to grow, to heal, to all of that. And just hearing this is just, God, gosh, it's such a stark reminder about how real this all is.
Yeah, and the
Um,
co-op provides space for us to come together to talk about it. I think that coming together is like the central point of Blackness. We heal together. That's why COVID has been so difficult. Not just because people got sick and we had to struggle through that part of it, but because we couldn't be near one another. In one of the hardest times in our state, in the middle of an uprising, we had to make choices to be together that could have gotten us all sick. But then we go back to our spaces and we're alone. There's been a lot of Zoom meetings and that sort of thing. And the co-op being in place for us to have a centralized location that's like, let's link up at this, this spot. Or I know that if I'm looking for certain people, they're going to be hanging at BTA. That's the type of reputation that we want in the space. That's what we want to become. We want to become that cornerstone of the neighborhood where everybody shows up when they need to find out information that's happening in Black spaces. So being able to have that and seeing the people benefit from it, seeing people come together for mics and everything else, and just the love in the space because folks can physically hug each other. That's enough to make every single meeting and every hurdle that we are faced with become nothing,
yes,
just
yes.
right.
I am 100% believer of what you accomplish when you're together in person.
Yeah.
And I used to be a part of a film collective, and we used to have screenings. And to us, those screenings, they took everything out of us. It was so difficult, but for us, it was so important
Yeah.
because we knew that's what opens up like minds, and that's what connects people. And to us, that when you talk about building community, that's what builds community.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I just am such a believer about these physical spaces and what you're doing and the fact that you've brought this physical space. I mean, I cannot tell you, like, honestly, just hearing this, and it's like, yeah, I don't know you, but I'm still gonna use the word, I'm proud of you. Even though it's like, who are you to be proud of me? But I'm just saying, like, I'm just so proud of what you guys have accomplished. And it's amazing. And one of the things that I sort of want to point out again, because coming from the legal world, right?
Mhm.
We're Elizabeth L. Carter Esquire LLC is a law firm,
Mhm.
and we're an all Black women law firm, and
That's
it's just
dope.
like, well, I'm just saying, and hearing you talk about the fact that it's a weird space to be in a sense of, I think it's so needed.
Mhm.
um I'm and just even as like a Black woman, it's having your peers around you to help you work through things. I mean, I've had so many bad experiences on jobs and stuff because I'm gonna chalk it up to different cultures. But anyway,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, for real in those spaces.
yeah,
Very.
it is hard. It is hard. And so it's been really kind of special being a part of this. But a lot of what we talk about is what we term representational, I guess, representation. But being able to provide legal services to people who look like us, because we feel like there's a lack of those services available, again, by people that look like us, and feeling
Yeah.
like it's important that people have an option to have that representational representation. And
Yeah.
so I was thinking about how you were talking about, you all have like a group of people that you can pull from, and some of you are lawyers, and some of you, are not. And so I'm not even going to ask, maybe they're not your same race. It's not about that, but the
Mhm.
fact that maybe like you feel like these people are coming from your community and have your understanding
Yeah.
about what you value. So can you tell me a little bit about what that means to be able to find representation that you feel like really reflects your values or your community?
For us, it's everything. I before even thinking about hiring people in, whether that's teaching artists, or just somebody that's going to be, program associate or just an assistant in the space, having that cultural understanding is number one for me. I hire for characteristics. I can teach the skill set. I cannot teach the character. So it's really important that from hiring to just holding space, we have an understanding of one another culturally. And how beautiful is it when you go in the space and you have that, and people, they understand those cultural nuances. So we don't spend all day inside of that building having to explain ourselves. We don't have to code switch. It's a powerful thing. And for the babies to be able to come in, especially the students that we're getting ready to get, I'm like, you don't have to code switch in this space. You don't have to be anything else. There's no microaggressions here to beat you down. You don't have to explain to us why microaggressions are violent to your skin. We get it. And that level of like, I see you, it's one of the most powerful things there. Like I firmly stand on that. So as the executive director in the space, I do everything to protect that. I do not care how popular you are. I don't care how much money you bring to the table. We will find it somewhere else if we don't have this cultural understanding, if we don't have, at the very least, a respect for the culture and the cultural understanding that's inside of this space. I won't work with you. I won't bring you in the space. There's enough places outside of here that are violent to us. I don't want that on any level here. So it's the first thought in everything that we do and every person that we bring on board.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, it's so important. But even when we talk about culture, it goes beyond race, in the sense of when you are in this cooperative space and really trying to adopt and uphold a culture of cooperation, that's just hard. I mean, most people are not, we're not raised or brought up, or it's something that you have to kind of learn. Like you said, like but you also have to like have a heart to want to learn, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It is not easy. It's not intuitive.
Yeah.
And so I also find that, it's equally important to find people who value the culture of cooperation and really want to adopt it. And for me, that has been like such a challenge. And so to find people who all believe in this, and we're trying our darndest to live by this. And again, it's not easy, but we're trying. And so you can feel that you're a part of something special, especially when you are, as you move out, because you're hoping that it's about what's happening internally, but you're also hoping that what you're doing internally will like expand out. And so that's why for me, like hearing how you are, specifically working with especially middle schoolers, because my goodness, like my sister, she has taught elementary school. She actually she's taught middle school, and now she's back, not as a teacher, but in a different space in middle school, dealing with people who are having more of like behavioral issues and all of that.
Her heart.
Yeah, and no, everybody hates it, and she's like, these people are crazy, but again, I guess because we're crazy, but so she's able to like, like bring them in, and I guess give them, what it is, but that they need, and the fact that she has such like a soft heart, which is really weird, because you ever meet my sister, you probably wouldn't describe her as having a soft heart, but she does. And she may not admit it, but she does. And she has such a soft heart for these kids, and really like wanting to show them like respect, right? Like that dual respect, not like just teaching at them, but really making it like reciprocal. And so I just applaud anybody who is especially working with these middle schoolers, because I do, when you said that they are left out, I do feel like they're left out, and at the worst time possible, they're being left out, because
they're a demographic because of where they are emotionally, like they're all kind of sliding into puberty. Hormones, emotions are all over the place. Everything is such a large event that I, in the past, I've been like, nope, I don't want your middle schoolers. Bring them back to me in high school. Drop them off right around 10th grade, and I got you from there. But I teach at this conference called Young Authors Conference every year. This was actually year 15 for me, and it's through Success Beyond the Classroom, and Bethel University holds the space for it. And we have like a 1-dayer that we just had, and then we have like a 4-day one in May that, has held up to 4,000 kids throughout the course of that. And they rotate our workshops. And those kids are 11 to 14 years old. And that's been like my, like 2 times a year that I take on like middle school kids. And I've done, like some of the junior highs here as well. I've taught workshops in them. I've, held like short residencies. But when I started full time in the space as an educator, I stayed in high school. But those babies are a part of the demographic of young people that are being locked up right now here at record numbers. They are a part of the demographic of young people that are, making up those in our gun violence ranks. They're young, they're emotional, they're impressionable, they're lost, they're trying to figure it out. Even if you come from the best of homes, middle school is just a weird time in your life. So we are hoping to grab hold of them at this age and give them a space to direct that and give them a space to feel as big as they feel without those feelings ending up costing them their lives or their records and that sort of thing. And I, when it comes to the young people in there, I'm a mom. I have my 2 little ones, and I believe in conscious parenting in my home. So they're not growing up with what I grew up, with. They don't get, whoopings, things like that. My kids have voices. I think I look at them and they're so protected. They're so loved, and they live so freely, and they have voices, and they're not afraid to like voice their opinion to me. They don't feel like they need to prep me before they do that. They feel like I respect them, and they move like children through this world who are taken care of, who are not getting out of the mud. And that is like, that's what I weigh everything in my life against. And so I take that same style of parenting to these kids in high schools, the young people in places like Gordon Park's ALC. Those are the people that prepped me for parenthood. The kids that were, kind of tossed into the bottom floor of the schools, kids that they said were, at risk. Those are the kids that prepared me for parenthood, because I saw what happens when one decision dictates the rest of their lives. I saw what happens when young people, especially Black boys, get treated, 1, like defective girls, and 2, like adults. Like the moment they come out of like kindergarten, like there's a switch over for people. And it's not just white people, like it's all of us at this point. There's a switch over. There's a point in which young boys stop being babies and become threats. And teaching those kids and seeing them have to navigate a society that's like pushing them into the bottom floor, while navigating all of these like emotions they don't understand, and then being treated like adults and being expected to function like adults in the space, that absolutely broke my heart. It leaves me extremely conscious of my kids. I know it starts at home, and I know that the making the wrong decision in my home, like not hearing my kids, like not being present for them, could kick off that one wrong decision that sends them down this pathway. So I choose to teach like I parent. I make space for these babies. I have chances for these babies. As long as they have chances for me, like I, I just open up the space to them. So I expect the new programming to have its moments. I expect middle schoolers to be middle schoolers. And I expect to teach them how to deal with it and how to talk things out and give them healthy coping mechanisms and teach them, proper ways to communicate, and also like make them a part of the co-op and the collective, and, get them to a place where they can have a key card and come in and use a space because they have a project at school they want to get through, like I want them to take themselves as seriously, and I want to support them in doing that. So
I love that. What do you see as your sort of toughest challenges moving forward now?
I think right now it's probably, I think funding is always going to be, its own uphill battle. And we're doing good for a new cooperative. Grants are coming in really well. But when I think about what all these children need as this space expands, we need more. Like when I think about us needing to own, like we have a 3-year lease there. And when I think about the fact that by the time that's up, we'll have paid like over 138K or so to the owner of that building, which is like half the cost of his building, and we won't own anything. We'll walk away without that. I know that we need to own, but I also know that to buy commercial real estate, we are looking at needing millions. And I don't think fundraising, at currently could cover all of that. So I think that that's the that's the challenge right now that we are addressing head on, from fundraising to grant writing, just trying to make sure that this space remains possible for these young people, because I know how tough it is to have things change abruptly. So what I don't want to do is build this safe space for them and give them this place away from the rest of the world that's safe, that's amazing, and then all of a sudden it's closed and they have nowhere to gather and nowhere to be in place of it. So I am sort of always thinking about funding. I'm always looking for, new grant opportunities. Always thinking about what we need to be able to do to be a part of that. I mean, right now we're talking about doing a cash ask and figuring out how to, get one of our representatives to get involved and help us author this bill and get written into the city's programming and things like that. So we are knocking at every door right now, to keep this open, because at the bottom of all of that, I mean, we get super stressed out about, the meetings and the funding and how to manage all of that. But
are part of the conversations that happen around, oh, did I cut you off? I apologize. I
No,
thought
you're
you were
good.
taking a break. Okay. Are part of the conversations that are happening is how to create like revenue?
Yes. So we have, our revenue from membership, but we also are thinking about, we have merch, things like that, our hoodies, notebooks, stuff like that, conferences and events that have like a really small fee. And, like we don't want to raise the pricing there, because we don't want it to, we're not looking to build it off the backs of people who are already struggling, but we are constantly thinking about, how we can bring something in a way that isn't exploitive to the community. So that's on the discussion table right now. I'd say the majority of our efforts have been in grant writing at this point and fundraising. But we're thinking about that as we move on. Like at some point, we want to be able to be self-sufficient. So we do have to find a way, even if that's like, and in my mind, and maybe it's still the dream right now, but figuring out how to have some sort of thing that includes, all the people that are involved in the co-op, artists, some sort of event that we have or whatever that helps fund the building itself. So that's definitely, it's on the table. We're still sort of imagining it out. We're still, this is a baby org still, like we just got in here. Just
We're still
celebrated.
pulling it together. Okay.
Yeah. Like just celebrated the 1-year anniversary in the co-op building, February like 15th, so it's, so we're babies, but we're trying to figure.
You guys are doing a lot. It's good. No, really, it's good. It's amazing. Where can we find out more information about Black Table Arts?
blacktablearts.com. So that'll have all of our fundraising efforts, any new events we have coming, all new programming will be there, and how to get involved and that sort of thing. So everything is on the website.
Okay. Do you think that there's anything that you would like to add that we didn't talk about, that it's important in understanding as we create these cooperative spaces in organizations?
People over profit. I mean, I think that's that's it. People over profit. This is about the people. And for us, it's about the babies. Those are the people that will be gatekeeping, will be holding space later. It's so important that we foster good relationships with the young people beneath us. And we sort of get rid of this gap that exists right now between us and our elders. Especially for those of us that are going to be growing into those ranks, it's important that we create that bridge now so that we're not looking at the disconnect that we have right now. Each one teach one. You grab somebody's hand, pull them up.
I'm just going to leave it with an amen, because I agree with you that that disconnect, I think, has been so detrimental, because what has happened too is that the older people don't want to relinquish power.
Yep.
It's because, to me, there was such a disconnect that they feel like they can't trust us. And it's like, yep, that's because that's your fault. Like you didn't feel like you taught us to be trusted. That's on you. Let go. You have to let go.
And we've been having these conversations with elders as well. We have a partnership with More Than a Single Story right now. And a young person and an elder gets paired together for conversation. And so that's been really awesome to host. And there's such a discussion there about why that disconnect exists. And for me, I look at it in the same way that I look at my parents. I think if you would ask me 10, 15 years ago about what I thought about how they were doing, I would have had some really, really critical response about everything they did wrong and that they could have done better. And then I became a parent and I realized why they were doing certain things. And then you add in the factor just around being Black and a lot of our parenting being fear-based. And our elders included wanting us to, get jobs that pay the bills, that keep our lights on, because they're afraid for us. They're afraid for us to end up out here on the streets. And somehow all of those stories link back around to some cop getting a hold of you and you being locked up. And so it has created fear-based relationships. It has created a world where, religion plays its part in telling us we don't question things and we don't put our opinions into the space. You respect your elders, and that coming more with a fearful hand than a respectful one. And I look at our elders with a lot of grace, because I know that leaning into religion is because growing up in a space that was as racist as this country was, all you had was God, And so that's why you don't question God, right? Because God got us through this. And I know that fear attaches that relationship as well, and that informed how they were parenting us. And so young people now look at that as we are sort of a part of this generation that's like trying to break out, the elder or the millennials and Gen Z really. It's like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this anymore. That's extremely frightening for the elders. They are afraid of what they were afraid of back then, because it's still alive and well right now. We're still marching for the exact same things that they were out there marching for. So I get it. And I just want young people to understand why that is, and have some grace for them and meet people where they are on both ends of the deal. And I'm hoping that series, like this one with More Than a Single Story, will start bridging that gap. And I hope that the co-op even provides space. I'm trying to make sure that we have elder involvement and elder support. That piece is important to me. And it's something that has to be in order for me to feel like I'm rooted. So I'm hoping that we start bridging the gaps in some of those relationships there. Because honestly, most of the badasses that I know are the elders in our spaces. And the young people just think they have never done or lived anything that's been there before. Everything they're doing is brand new. And I'm just like, man, no, you have to link. You have to link with your grandparents, you have to get into a space.
This is good. Really we definitely need multi-generational takes. Forget just,
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. Think and act tanks, but or I say action tanks. Well, thank you, Brittany. I want to say I really appreciate this time that you gave us and just sharing your experiences. And I just can't, wait to hear how Black Table Arts just keeps progressing and evolving. Because I definitely think what you guys are doing is special.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for having us.
Thank you. Well, have a wonderful day. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
You too.
Bye.